Floppy Waffle 69 here, and for today's viewing entertainment, we are looking at the next ship going down the line to the USN's Battleship Montana, and it is the Tier 7 USS Colorado. Whoa! So going from my last video on the absolute dumpster fire that is the New Mexico, you're thinking, hey, I persevered through that hunk of shit, and it is time to see the light at the end of the tunnel and go to the next ship. And wow, I don't think I have enough patience in my body to give you a a high quality level replay in the Colorado. That being said, is she a capable ship? Absolutely. Do I enjoy playing the Colorado, and do you find myself queuing up in her consistently when I play Tier 7? Absolutely fucking not. I do not like this ship either. Personally, I think it is just a big hodgepodge of shit. But the only slightly redeeming factor of this vessel is that now you have persevered through the 356mm guns, and you now have overmatch on your USN battleships. You have these 406mm guns, which are awesome, and they can hit like a truck. So, and we'll get to that. We'll talk about that. But I figured I'd just get this out of the way first. Get it out of my system before I actually take a deep breath and start doing a in-depth analysis of the USS Colorado. This ship, I think, is responsible for, it has to be at least in the top 3 to 4 ships, I think, free XP to pass. Without the game's history, throughout the game's entire history, this has to be one of the highest free XP ships, past it. You've played a couple games, and everyone's like, holy fuck, I'm gonna rip out my hair playing this thing. How you doing, North Carolina? She wasn't an enjoyable experience when I first played her, but we persevered. She wasn't an enjoyable experience playing her again to get the right footage for you guys in order to, show you kind of what you can do on the battlefield in 2025. Which is hysterical because one of my clanmates swears by this thing. He loves the Colorado. He loves the play style. And that, again, is just his personal opinion. He is a battleship main. I'll give him credit. But, no way. I'm not looking for, this thing doesn't bring anything that I'm looking for when I play battleships, personally. So, figured to get that out of the way. But like we always do, we're going to dig deep under the hood, peel away the armor layers and show you what the ship's kind of made of on some soft stats here. I will most likely be comparing her to not only the predecessor, the New Mexico, right, what we just ground past, to kind of see what you're getting on upgrade fronts, but I'm also going to be comparing her to the West Virginia 44, as it is a Colorado class, and it just makes the most amount of sense to compare it to that, obviously. So, and that also is at Tier 7, so makes sense, right? So first things first, we're going to look at the armor layout. Getting that 26mm nose and 26mm ass, 26mm deck, very, very massive superstructure, big ass freeboard on the side. Again, we have those. It's good to highlight these side protecting the torpedo belt protections on this vessel is going to act like space armor. This thing can be trolley to Citadel at times. Its armor can be trolley at times. But if you have large enough caliber shells and you land it right, you're going right through that. So don't rely on that whatsoever. But you have that. Let me peel away the turrets here. No, I'll keep the turrets, but I'll reset. Okay, so obviously, what do we have? Just slightly above Waterline Citadel, or right at Waterline Citadel in the Colorado. Very, very big. Shouldn't be too much of a problem going through, as you do have that 343mm armor belt, which I believe is the same on the New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. So again, it's not going to be the best, most armored vessel out there, right? We can all agree on that. So, with the Colorado here, we're clocking in at 59,300 HP points with a 37% torpedo belt reduction on her. The torpedo belt reduction on the New Mexico was actually larger, being at 40, but we are actually the same as the West Virginia 44 with that 37% torpedo bow protection. You have it. It might help for 1 or 2 PEDs, but if you take consecutive PEDs in a row, I mean, this thing is just going to get... Again, this thing doesn't want to eat torpedoes, and being as slow as it is, I mean, it's more likely than not you're probably going to be an easy target for destroyers, especially if you're caught off on yourself on a flank or whatnot. So don't put all your eggs in one basket saying, oh, well, I have this 37% torpedo bow protection, because it's really not going to matter. So, going into the artillery, and this is actually the big difference you're going to see from the New Mexico to now going to the Colorado. As I said, might be the only redeeming feature of the USS Colorado, which is the 406mm guns. You do have the 4x2 406mm gun layout with a 30-second reload time and a 45-second turret traverse. Now, this isn't the New Mexico's abysmal 60-second that we were used to on the 180-degree turn time. So that's why I do recommend the artillery plotting room as that third slot upgrade. I mean, again, if 45 seconds is just too long for you and you're used to that, 30 seconds base that a lot of battleships have nowadays in 2024, 2025, by all means, take it. For me, I understand that the gun range on this ship, it was like 18.6 or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is. Where is it? Range on the Colorado is 18.8, and I understand that 21.8 kilometers is more than enough range. But then again, you have to remember, you're at tier 7. You're going to find yourself in tier 9 games, having that little bit extra range isn't bad. And again, you have the spotter plane too. So again, by all means, if you like the turret traverse time, go ahead and take it. Do it, right? Absolutely do it. So, now her dispersion values, and we're only going to be going solely based off of her like 18.8 kilometer range, so around 19 kilometers. Your horizontal dispersion is 250 meters, just like the New Mexico, just like the West Virginia 44. But where it differs is with the Colorado, your vertical dispersion is 150 meters, West Virginia 44 is 155, and the New Mexico crying in a corner is 159. So the Colorado of the three, arguably to say, is the most accurate. Also coming in with a 2.0 Sigma, which is not bad. I don't know if this is misleading or what, but this thing, it's a shotgun. I swear to God, I can't tell the difference between the New Mexico, the West Virginia, and the Colorado. They just, the shells go everywhere and every which way. I rarely hit my target where I'm aiming, and if I do, I'm landing 1, 2, best salvos, 3 to 4 shells on target. It's just how the cookie crumbles, I guess. It's not a very accurate ship at all in the slightest. So, touching on her HE just a tad bit with the 5700 HE damage with the 36% fire chance, 68 millimeters of penetration on her HE shells. With that being said, the Colorado does tie the West Virginia with the 36% fire chance. But again, because of the lack of shells going down range, you're only averaging about 5.8 fires a minute, whereas the New Mexico's 30% chance, because you have 12 guns, is actually getting more fires, per minute with the 6.3. I mean, very small number. Maybe you're getting 1 more fire per minute, right, because of that. But again, that does emphasize why I like throwing more HE downrange with the New Mexico than I do the Colorado, because the Colorado is definitely the opposite. I would solely just basically use armor piercing, unless that, a destroyer's coming around the corner and you can nuke them that way, or submarine, right? Like very, very, very small times you're going to be using HE in this ship. So your bread and butter is 100% going to be your armor piercing, because now you have overmatch capabilities, and we will get to that here with it. In regards of the overmatch that you can have, you and the West Virginia 44 both have that 28 millimeters of overmatch, which is mainly going to be effective towards the cruisers, I would say. So battleships, yes, by all means, you do have overmatch on battleships, as like this thing was for a prime example. You're coated in 26 millimeters armor, so you do have the overmatch. But then again, battleships are a little bit more armored, like with layer by layer, so cruisers will feel the pain more so than battleships. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Overmatch is obviously going to still be a factor with battleships that are coated in 26, which is very prevalent down at tier 7. But yeah, I figured I'd just throw that out there. Once you go up to tier 8 and tier 9, that is where you have to make conscious decisions, know where you're aiming. And again, this thing's fucking not accurate, so it's going to be harder to make use of the overmatch mechanics at, upper tiers when you get up tiered, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to say with that. So, all right. She has the ASW airstrike. No shit. AA defenses. It might be the first battleship worth talking about with the AA defenses. The Colorado does have a flak count of like 2, I believe. I think it's 2 flak on the maybe I'm taking a skill. I'm not sure. We're just go with 3. Maybe I'm buffing something. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it is 3 flak. My bad. With her AA, her long range DPS 53. Yuck. And her medium range, which is only 3.5 kilometers, coming in at 213, which is pretty solid. And her short range is 196. So again, you're not going to prevent strikes. You're not going to strike fear in the carrier's eyes because you're going to be running into a lot of tier 8 carriers, right? They are going to be coming after you, and you're going to be fodder for them. So just keep that in mind as well. You might want to hang close to your allies. And then compared to the West Virginia 44, you have 105 on the long range, but your long range AA is now 5.8 kilometers instead of the Colorado's 4.8. So that might be something to consider as well. Justifying, hey, you're going to be in the planes are going to be longer in the aura of the West Virginia 44 rather than the Colorado. So AA will seem more effective on that ship. Also, that ship, does it have defensive? It does have defensive AA. So theoretically, I mean, not theoretically, but it's going to have better AA. And then going off the West Virginia's medium, which is 197 with 3.5, and then her short range is actually pretty high at 311 for this tier for battleships. So, and with obviously with the defensive AA, that's going to help with boosting all those stats even further. So Colorado AA, not the best. You will shoot down 1 to 2 planes. Tier 6 carriers, I feel you won't do terrible with. Again, they're not gonna not strike you. If that makes sense. But you have some AA that you can at least shoot down a couple planes and feel like you are doing something to them. Maneuverability, and I just want to double check that I'm not actually using Sierra Mike flags. Yeah, 22, right? 22 knots. Turning circle radius 640 meters with a rudder shift time of 14.2. The turning circle radius is not bad, 640, right? That's better than the West Virginia 44 at 750, but the rudder shift time, I don't know if that's standard throughout all battleships this tier. I'd have to double check. Let me just double check with that with the rudder shift time. Like their best rudder shift time is the Yukon at 9.7, and the worst coming in the Duke of York with 17.5 seconds. So you're arguably on the higher end of things, but you're kind of middle of the pack. So again, it's not too bad. 22.1 knots is abysmal, and that's where we're going to go over the build you saw earlier on in the video already with what I recommend. This thing does get set ablaze, and a lot frequently, and that is why I'm going a full damage control build, damage comp build. Now, interesting enough, with this ship, I actually personally take the damage control party mod 1 modification because I have the coal. I use it. Again, this is with submarines and aircraft carriers and HE spamming, right? This is a very nice tool to have, especially on a slow lumbering battleship like the USS Colorado. But if you don't want to use that, don't have access to it, main armaments mod 1 is going to be your best friend. This is why I just take this in, for me personally, is just because I want to have that consumable action time longer, so I have a longer grace period. And then you could couple that with that tier 4 commander skill, which I can recall my commander real quick, that I obviously do not have, but you could couple that with the emergency repair export to help your damage control party consumable action time go an additional 10% longer, which I think will average like 2-3 seconds longer. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, you could 100% do that as well to min-max them if you so choose. So you don't have to listen to my build. If you want to like play around with some stuff for yourself, 100% agree. That's just something that I would personally recommend. The build I showed in the beginning of the battle are builds that have worked for me in the past. And if you're just going through, maybe you're reusing your commanders or whatnot that are specific to the ship, I will say if it's specific to the ship or not. If the commander's not specific to the ship, and you're just bouncing them around or following like Colorado, then it's gonna be on your North Carolina, then it's gonna be on your Iowa, right? Yeah, like that's kind of how I build the commanders, just so it's easier for you guys. You don't have to worry about, I have to respec. No, I think that's why I put commanders per their own ship, because I think each ship, for the most part, is are their own entities, their own beasts, and I don't want to have a bunch of commanders and just bounce them around. I think it's fucking stupid that players do that, especially with like the legendary commanders like Halsey and Heinrich and all these guys are Lucians, or Halfrick, sorry. Now, is it smart? Absolutely. I'm not taking it away from it. I mean, they're just flat out better than other captains. Good job. For me, I'm not that big of a tryhard. I don't want to do that. I don't have the resources to do that. So fuck it. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to play the game as I feel like she was kind of intended to do rather than be a sweaty tryhard. So, just my opinion. And then the last but not least, we're going to go into the concealment. I mean, 16.2 is a big ouchies, right? And then I believe if you also have the, where are you? Here we go. It actually matches the 6.2 as well when you're firing from smoke. So smoke is going to do basically equivalent to fuck all for you. So I wouldn't really rely on hiding in smoke, or if destroyers are like, oh, I'll give you smoke, Colorado, it'll be like, great. So such a small chance that that's actually going to be doing anything for you, and you're going to find yourself in a situation where it might do something for you, right? Such a tiny, tiny chance. So yeah, so it's the Colorado, guys. As you saw under the stats, hopefully that gave you a little bit more insight. Just talking about a little bit of things. Again, she does have that. She does retain that USN improved heal at the 18.5 repair, right? The 18.5% repair percentage. She's going to be repairing more than like the West Virginia 44 that has the standard 14%. So that is something to keep note as well. She doesn't have the improved damage con that you see a couple USN battleships have, and she does not have the defensive AA that the West Virginia 44 has. But you could choose between fighter and spotter, which, let's be honest, we're using that spotter as slow and lumbering as we are. This ship will be a struggle. If you don't struggle in this ship, if you have massive success in this ship, dude, I applaud you guys. Just like the New Mexico, I applaud it. I feel this ship is dominating when it is top tier. Absolutely dominating when it is top tier. But struggles the second it goes to tier 8, and God forbid we go to tier 9. Tier 8, you're struggling hard. Tier 9, you're dead. It's one of those ships. It's very matchmaker dependent, and tier 7 gets absolutely brutalized with the matchmaker nowadays. You're going to have to play smart when you play this ship. Because more often than not, I would say more than 60% of the time, you are going to tier 8 or tier 9. So, it's a rough one. I'm going to show you some gameplay of her. It is not great gameplay. It is just standard gameplay. Should be achievable by everyone. Again, that's what I pride myself on. I'm not cherry-picking bullshit for you guys to give you some unrealistic expectation. But anyways, let's get on into that video. All right, and welcome into battle here with the USS Colorado, and a couple of apologies. One, the Popeye Commander is fucking annoying. I usually just have him on here to troll people with either well dones or just say stupid shit because I think it's hilarious. Sometimes the animated commanders or the Azura Lane commanders, whatever, just freaking hysterical. So that's the first apology. The second apology is there are positioning features in this game that I would have, if I could do it over again, I probably wouldn't have done. So again, and I'll make sure to point that out. One is that I'm traveling to a flank. So just be careful of that. I wouldn't really recommend traveling to a flank in this ship. If you are going to, let's say, help a flank, try to stay in a more centralized location. I think it would be better for you. As remember, we talked about that disengaging purpose and in positioning your vessel, because you are slow by the time you get to the battle. Either your flank is decimated and you pretty much are caught on by yourself or alone, or by the time you get to the flank, your team has already steamrolled that flank and you're playing catch up the entire game. So position your ship better than I do. That's the next thing. Sorry. Also, we are in a mid-tier game here. So we have tier 8s in this battle as well as tier 6s, and I'm a tier 7. So the Colorado is already going to be handicapped a little bit. Not much, but a little bit, like I talked about. It's going to be more of a struggle than than if you were top tier. So I think it was good kind of trying to find that intermediate. Obviously tier 9 would be almost a complete waste of your time showing you a video, because I'd probably only be doing about 40 to 50k damage. And then inevitably dying. And then tier 7 obviously is like showing you probably what you should already know. Your tier 7 battleship with 406s. Obviously, that's going to be strong, and you can utilize that to your advantage. So, a couple things here is we are going to A flank. We are going to be supporting our Asashio, Nuremberg, our Salmon, as best we can. But, the Colorado with those, again, we have the floatier shells. Other BBs are going to have better flight time, travel speed, whatever not. The kind of that crop of the shells, the high angle, again, you'll see the next ship we review when you talk about those, definitely more prominent. So if you're not used to floating shells, You better start getting used to them now. That's for sure. Because the 406s on the Americans, yeah, they like to hang. So, but yeah, the Colorado guys, yeah, not a fun ship for me. Didn't like her. I would like either my battleships to be, more consistent. Have insanely good overmatch, decent armor, decent speed. And this thing, realistically, all it has overmatch, and it depends on, I mean, yes, theoretically, you're going to be able to overmatch a lot of cruisers, even against tier 9 cruisers, but it's like that kind of gets diminished based upon other armor plating, like 30mm deck, and all that kind of, or 30mm side plating, upper belt, like that kind of. It's just a bunch of different things you have to factor in. So again, it's going to be a little bit less consistent. So, and again, with the penetration and all that kind of stuff, it's like, right? So, again, Popeye talking when I'm trying to talk is fucking annoying. Should have muted him, but whatever, no big deal. We're gonna have to manage it. But there you go. There's a good example of a salvo that connects again on a stationary Scharnhorst. I think it was at 18 kilometers away or something like that. I mean, the ship can dish out the pain, but it is going to be like we've seen with the New Mexico. You're going to be rolling the die a lot. Like, yes, I understand that's what this game is. If you break it down to a fundamental level, it's RNG, it's random number generators, it's all that sort of stuff. But I really feel like these middle tier, battleships for Americans, they are rolling a lot. They are rolling a lot. And judging about like this angle on the Amalfield, the fact that I even scored a Citadel ribbon on the way he was angled to me just shows like, yeah, you have the overmatch, but it's like, would that have happened against Venezia? Probably not. Or you're not going to fight a Venezia, my bad. The Brindisi, I don't know. It's questionable. So there's no arguing that the Colorado can't dish out pain. My argument with the Colorado is the ship balanced? Is it just been power creep to hell? If you were going to improve the ship, how would you improve the ship? It's a bunch of these things. It's like, yeah, I don't know what they would necessarily do to make the ship better. It just, to me, it just feels like what they have here at Tier 7 has always just been a struggle. Like, if you show the other battleships at Tier 7, the Sinop, the Nagato, just to name a couple at least, without doing premium ones, right? I just feel like I'd almost queue up. I'd rather queue up in almost any other battleship than this thing. Almost. So, I don't know what they would do. I know people have talked about the speed, and clearly they didn't want that because Wargaming goes, yeah, we hear you, and we also hear that you want a USN battle split. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a massive, we're basically going to carry tier 7 Colorado all the way up to tier 10, which is being the Vermont. So it's just one of those things, right? It's just one of those things. You're just gonna have to play around it, learn to play around it, and I think it does a good job of like teaching people, positioning your ships and picking your shot selection and all that stuff. So I do think it leads very well down like the Kansas, the Minnesota, the Vermont line. But when it's going down the other two, especially the hybrid one, don't even talk about that. But when it's going down like, the Montana line, it's not really teaching you much other than it's like, okay, learn to play with the floaty shells because that's going to be, something you're going to have. But like the speed is kind of misleading because eventually we finally start breaking 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 knots. And then we're going 33 knots in our Iowa. And then we're drop back down to like 30 in our Montana. So it's just a weird little boat. And my goal with this video is I'm trying to highlight, just how kind of passive you have to play in the Colorado. Obviously with the speed, obviously with the secondaries, obviously with the turret traverse time, you're not going to be brawling in the Colorado, and that should be something that should be apparent from the beginning with the New York. You're not going to be getting in there. You're not going to be using anything other than your HP pool potentially to tank shells. Because your armor is, you have it, but it's balanced for tier 7. But the second you go up to a tier 8 or tier 9 game, take that out of the water. And then overmatch just becomes more and more, prominent with the sign up, at tier 7 with the 406s, the Nagato with the 410s. Like, you're just going to see it more and more often. So that the tier 7 battleships are just weird because usually they have the overmatching capabilities, but in return, they just get absolutely dummied on by other battleships. So just something you gotta keep in mind when you're getting up here. So, but I think the big complaints for the Colorado have to be the speed and the lack of consistency in the shells, which is weird because I listed off the dispersion values horizontally and vertically at max range. And with the 2.0 Sigma, you'd be like, well, it's consistent at least, so there has to be that. But to me, you're seeing these salvos, guys, like it's not very consistent. A lot of these shells, they spread out, and then they go up and down like elevators. It's like, I don't know, you're not gonna be landing the consistency of shells on target. So, and God forbid you just shoot your front two guns as you're seeing. This is something else I want to talk about, and this is what my clanmate has always said. He will never not shoot his whole broadside with this thing. And I actually believe him because when you're just using your front two guns, I feel you don't hit the target as much and do the consistent amount of damage that you would like to see out of your ship. You know what I mean? There's a great example. So if there's one thing I'd recommend, not only playing at medium to longer ranges, definitely try to unleash a full broadside on target more so than using your front two. I mean, there obviously is times you're going to have to play the situation accordingly. But yeah, it is, you're going to notice that if you shoot a full broadside, you're going to be doing more damage. Obviously just more shells going down range, but something, I don't know if it's like a hidden stat or whatever, but like the swing mechanic or whatever, like you just, I don't know, you just do better, you do more. And that's what we're looking for here because we want to do more. This ship does not do a whole lot. Obviously, knowing, in the Colorado, you just know you're going to be taking damage, and that's why I run the build I do. I run a full damage control, full damage mitigation build. You have to, like a tank build, just because you're going to be lit on fire all the time. People love to shoot you because you're detected from 14.6 kilometers and you're slow and lumbering. This is going to be a common theme you're going to see with these ships if you're going down the Vermont line. Eventually, I mean, it's just going to be every battleship, usually because battleships are spotted anywhere between 13.7 to 14 kilometers or higher when you get to like tier 9 and tier 10 usually. But now Wargaming obviously starting to combat that with, getting stealthier and stealthier battleships, which I don't know if I'm personally a fan of. Not every battleship needs to have sub 13 kilometer stealth. I think that's only power creeping DDs. So not a fan of that, but whatever. So here we are at 8.6 kilometers. We fire a full broadside and boom, we're able to take out the Sharknest. Now, one thing I do want to mention, this just reminded me, the gun firing angles, and I know I didn't show it on the beginning. I didn't talk about it, excuse me. I might have shown it, but I didn't talk about it. The 1, 2, and 3 turrets actually have pretty damn good firing angles. Not ideal. Like, you're still going to have to show a fair amount of broadside, as you're seeing. But to get that 4th turret online, you're exposing your entire broadside. So a good rule of thumb that I would like to tell people is, if you're kind of worried about your angle, is if you're getting 1 to 2 turrets online, you're probably at a good angle. If you're getting your 3rd turret online, you're probably at a, hey, use caution here, depending on who you're fighting, as you're starting to show a little bit more citadel. And if you have that 4th turret online on anybody, you will be at risk of being citadeled by an enemy battleship. So, one thing you're going to see with this video, or maybe have seen, is I'm really shooting, when we're at ranges probably exceeding around 16 to 17 kilometers, I'm really shooting at anticipation of turns, and that's just something you're going to have to do at higher tiers with these floatier gun arc shells, just because your shells travel time it takes longer than other battleship nations, and they like to hang a little bit. So these ships don't like playing at long ranges. Because of that reason, it is so much easier to dodge your incoming shells at those ranges than it is if you're up close and personal. But then again, you can't be up close and personal, because the second you get up close and personal, you're going to get run out of the freaking game with either burning, taking torpedoes, or just getting absolutely overmatched and dev struck. So I think there needs to be that fine line of just understanding and reading the map and positioning accordingly to the map. And that's been a common theme we've talked about since the New York. is just you have to know where you are at the map at all times and where are the threats. Um, Obviously, first thing I check is, hey, is it a DD game? Or sorry, is it a submarine game? Is it an aircraft carrier game? Okay, yes, boxes are checked, so I'm going to play way more passive. And do I like that because of those two classes? Probably not. But do I understand why Battleship players do it? Yeah, to some degree. But again, you have to know, well, how far back or how much playing, like how playing passive, like what is acceptable and what's not. That's going to have to come onto you, and you're going to have to feel that. Okay. I don't feel if you're sitting at 19, 20 kilometers, I don't feel like that's doing anybody any favors, especially your team. But then again, I don't believe sitting at 9, 8, 7 kilometers is doing much for your team either, in the essence that you're basically throwing your ship away. I would say if we're going to play this ship in an ideal world, if we're picking engagement ranges, 13 to 16, maybe even 13 to 17 kilometers, at the 17 being the max, would be where I would want to position my vessel in this ship, just based upon how slow it is, the shell angles and initial shell velocity of speed, just that sort of stuff. I don't think, if you're exceeding that, you're only going to be doing yourself a disservice at that point. I mean, obviously you're going to be doing your team a disservice, and they're probably going to be barking at you all game. But you're definitely be doing yourself a disservice, as you're not going to be reliably landing shells on the target. And again, reliably in quotation marks, because the ship has a hard time of reliability and consistency, even though with the 2.0 Sigma. It's just one of those ships, the whole thing put together doesn't create a fun game play, or fun gameplay for me, at least. Is the ship good? Yes, I think she can be good. But with the matchmaker the way it is, with the way the direction the game's been going, this ship is only getting harder and harder to play. And I think that's what I'm trying to stress in the entire video, as I'm rambling on here about, specific things here and there, and talking about shit here, talking about shit there. The ship is not easy to play, in my opinion. Just because of all the stats on her. Can she be good? Yes, she can. She has 406s. She has overmatch. She really doesn't need any introduction in that regard. But she definitely is. She can be sore. So again, here's a prime example. I'm anticipating the Amalfi's very maneuverable. He's going to go full, turn out basically, and he doesn't. He just turns the other way, and my shells go nowhere near him. So that's just something, again, poor gunnery. I'll soak that one. I'll take that one on the chin, but you can see why I'm anticipating that, just because here we are at 15, 16 kilometers, and it's like, even with his maneuverability, it's like you have to plan accordingly with your shells. Obviously, I should have known he launched his torpedoes, but, we're at the end of the game. We're going to win in like 5 seconds. Did I really give a fuck? Doesn't really matter. So again, pretty ass gameplay. I mean, it's standard. I mean, I wouldn't I'm sure you guys could probably do better than this, and this is in a tier 8 game, so whatever. But yeah, like, it's not, you're not going to win any awards with the Colorado and me. Like, I don't like the ship, and I'm happy to be gone from her. I do play her in like funny divisions. If me and my div mate, the one who loves the Colorado so much, he knows who he is. Queue up in it. I might queue up in it too. It'd be like, shoot the shit and be a double Colorado div, because that's just fucking hilarious. And usually we get a CV game and we're up tier to tier 9, so that's always good too. But yeah, again, for me, it's not really a ship. You can't really recommend a ship because it's a tech line ship, but I would recommend you still play her. I don't think you should free XP any ship in this game, because I think each ship teaches you something new. It's something that you can add to your repertoire of not only battleship gameplay, but of your American battleship gameplay, and that's going to transfer to a better experience when you're playing top tier, or any tier, essentially, if you're learning more, right? You're only getting better at the game. So, but yeah, 81,000 damage in a tier 8 game. Again, it's like, great, right? Finishing third on the team, great. Like, it's nothing to, like, get up and get the pom-poms out and start, saying hurrah. But, I'll take it. I think I played 3 games, and this might have been the best one I played. And all games I was up tiered. I was not top tier. So to summarize the USS Colorado in a nutshell, and kind of my take on her as a ship as a whole, I don't like her. I really don't. To me, she's very similar to the New Mexico down at tier 6. But again, her only redeeming feature is those 406mm guns because now she has overmatch. So it'll help a little bit in her overall gameplay, but pretty much go into it knowing that you are the bottom of the barrel and that most ships do not fear you. Now, if you are top tier, this ship is certainly capable of dishing out the pain, as are most ships. But the second you are thrown into tier 8, and God forbid a tier 9 game, you are going to struggle heavily in this ship. So just keep that in mind, or bear that in mind while you queue up in her. So anyways, hopefully this video helps you all. And hopefully you all can achieve better success than I could ever in the USS Colorado. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace out.